Hi, so it's been some time since I recorded a video like this. I think it's been about 1.5 years. Last time I recorded a video, I was a law student in my final year of law school. I started in my penultimate year and I kind of stopped for multiple reasons. I just didn't have the energy or the time. Mostly the energy, I did have the time. Things were very different back then. I was a student, now I'm a working professional, and I really wanted to continue this. It's not something I wanted to stop doing. I was inspired by people like Brett Cooper and various commentators, Charlie Kirk, and people on the left as well, not just people on the right, but Charlie Kirk is dead now. There were multiple wars in between. I started working in between, and life has its own way. But I really wanted to make this video today because I came across, and people have come across, and people are sort of clowning on it a little bit, two orders from the Allahabad High Court, which seem contradictory. Like, two contradictory orders were passed by the Allahabad High Court with respect to live-in relationships and marriages in the span of just, I think, 3 or 4 days. So in the first case, the court has basically said, and I quote a Live Law article, the title says, an individual who is already married can't enter into a live-in relationship with a third person without first seeking divorce. And just a few days after that, a seemingly contradictory order came out saying there is no offense if a married man stays in a live-in relationship with an adult woman. So today I'm just going to break down both of those decisions and give my opinion on the same, and I would love to hear what you guys think as well. Particularly, people have taken great offense to some of these cases, and rightfully so, because this is something that's a little bit jarring. And also the fact that these are contradictory orders that have been passed in almost quick succession, and it just doesn't really make sense to a lot of people. So before heading into the decision itself, I really want to just read some reactions online. So Dibyata Roy says, oh, suddenly live-in relationship is valid as long as the man does it. Rushi says, will this be applicable to all married women as well? Obviously people are like a little surprised seeing all this. Abhi Singh says, how about married women staying with another adult man who is A, married or unmarried? Milords should just give a flowchart as to what is legal and what's not, and probably just get done away with marriage and related disputes. But then how will half the judiciary earn their daily bread? I don't know. The judiciary doesn't really earn their bread in that sense. They get a fixed salary from the government irrespective of what cases they decide or how quickly they do so. But yeah, there are a lot of there's a lot of dissonance online. Jin Sebastian says, all courts confusing people with contradictory verdicts, like I was saying, but we'll get into it. He says, anyway, men will be crucified and women will scoot with unfair legal leniency. Another person, Abhiyan, says, pathetic situation, betrayal or extramarital should never be encouraged. We're at one place, we are heading towards a time where all these incidents are the new normal, and I kind of agree. Like, as someone who, I do think that people, if they want to, they can be with whoever they want. I am not there to judge people for that. If they want to live together without being married, that's them. Personally, that's never something I would be okay with. That's not me. I am someone who believes in the institution of marriage. But having said that, I'm also not someone who, I don't want people forcing their liberal views onto me. So I am not someone, as much as I do advocate for the institution of marriage, and I believe in marriage, and I believe in staying with one person till the day you die, and after that also, I'm not someone who is okay with imposing that belief on other people. So I don't want them to impose their liberal beliefs onto me, so it's vice versa. So what we can gather from a lot of the reactions online is that, again, people are taking this to be some kind of offense on men, as though it's only an issue when a man enters into a live-in relationship and not an issue when the women enter into live-in relationships. But I don't think that's the case. These headlines that are put out by these legal reporting websites, and I'll read it again for everybody's benefit, right? No offense if married man stays in live-in relationship with adult woman. Now this title, it seems to indicate that it's an offense if a woman does so, but not offense if a man does so. But we forget that there have to be a man and a woman in the relationship to begin with. So I guess people do seem to think that there's some kind of dissonance here. They seem to think that if a married woman does it, then maybe it's not an offense. But I want to break this down because these are two very different cases that have come out. So the first case, where the court says it's not an offense if a married man gets into a live-in relationship, that is the case of Anamika versus Union of India. Anamika versus State of UP, and the other case is called Anju versus State of UP. Now, both of these cases have very different fact situations, right? So, Anamika versus Union of India, sorry, not Union of India, it's State of UP, I keep forgetting. So, in Anamika, basically what's happening in this case is that there's a couple. Now, in this couple, the woman is unmarried, but the man is married to another woman, and seemingly the couple is facing some heat from people surrounding them. Now, the couple, they faced apparently honor killing threats, and apparently honor killing is something that's very common in North India, so I don't really know much about how common it is or how prevalent that practice is, but that is something that happens, and it's needless to say a pretty bad thing. So they file a writ petition under Article 226 claiming that their fundamental rights are being threatened, right? Because what's happening in Anamika is she's not facing only death threats. A police case has been filed against her and her partner. Her partner's name is Netrapal. So Anamika, Netrapal, they are the couple here, and Netrapal is the married man. So a case has been filed under section 87 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, which basically has to do with kidnapping a woman under the pretext of marriage. So this Netrapal guy, I don't know if it's only filed against Netrapal or both Anamika and Netrapal, because the judgment isn't very clear with it. But a case is filed against them for kidnapping, right? So that's when the court gets into it. The court says that, morality and law are two different things, which I do agree with. And the court also says that, two individuals, freely consenting individuals can do whatever they want, and the law really can't do anything about it. Because if you do remember, a couple of years ago, adultery was struck down as unconstitutional because it only punished men and not women. So on that basis, and the court had also said a bunch of stuff that adultery views women as objects, something. I won't give my opinion on that today, but the adultery law was struck down. So technically there is nothing illegal about what they're doing. So that is the context in which the court says that it's not an offense. The court isn't trying to sanction or condone this. The court does say that in a liberal democracy, people can choose their partner, and I agree, but I don't condone that. I agree that people can be in live-in relationships and cheat on their spouse, and they shouldn't be punished for it under law. But that doesn't mean I condone it, right? And that's when we get to the former case. So the former case is similar, but a little bit different. So the former case is Anju versus Union of India. Now, in this case, the petitioner approaches the court similarly under Article 227, claiming that her fundamental rights are being affected because her family has been harassing her for entering into a relationship. Now, in the previous case, which is Anamika, only the man was married, right? In this case, both people to the relationship, the extramarital relationship, are married. The court basically goes into this and says that from the decision alone, I don't gather that there's any physical threat to their well-being. The whole petition reads as though these guys are just filing the case to sanctify their extramarital affair and their live-in relationship. They just want to legitimize and bring up live-in relationships to the statuses of marriages, and that's why they're filing this court case, because if they get a favorable order, I guess they can show to the world and say, be gone with it, right? So I guess what you could say in summary is that yes, two people can really do what they want as long as they're consenting. That includes breaking the trust that's built in marriage, betraying your partner and all of that, and the court and the institutions of the executive can't really do anything about it. It's not a crime under law to cheat on your spouse because it's your life and theirs. It's not a big problem for society. I mean, it does diminish the value of families, and I do believe that the family is the unit of society. I think society is a lot better when there's community, and community starts with marriage and that institution. But we do live in a liberal democracy, and in these values we do uphold individual liberty, which I think is extremely precious, over community values to a certain degree. So I do agree with that aspect of it, in the sense that it shouldn't be criminalized. But at the same time, I also think that what the court did here when they said that it's not an offense, they're also protecting a couple from, I shouldn't call them a couple, they're protecting a extramarital adulterous couple from being lynched or killed, and I think that's fair as well. People shouldn't be lynched and killed for all this. But at the same time, the court will not give its rubber stamp and uphold an extramarital live-in relationship to the status of a marriage, right? And that's something people are always trying to do nowadays. They're saying that marriage is just a piece of paper, and my response to that is, It's so much more than that. It signals commitment. If marriage was just a piece of paper, then why are people so scared of it? If you say marriage is just a piece of paper, right? And people can be together even without marriage, fair enough, but you shouldn't pretend that marriage and other kinds of relationships are the same. They are not on the same playing field, because if you really were serious about each other, and if it is just a piece of paper meant to a peace society, I don't see why you wouldn't want to do it, because, well, if it's just a piece of paper, then go ahead and do it. But yeah, I guess it's these cases are not really that different after all. They just deal with very different fact situations. One is where a criminal case has been filed against the extramarital couple and they're under the threat of death, and the other case seems to be is the keyword, a case where they're just approaching the court to get a rubber stamp of approval for what they're doing, which is obviously wrong. So yeah, I guess that's it. So in any case, the real reason I wanted to make this podcast was because this is something I always wanted to do, and I kind of stopped. It does provide me with a lot of personal sense of self-satisfaction. And also, this was a very outrageous case from the face of it, right? Because all these legal reporting channels, who are the bigger problem, by the way, because they put out such sensationalized titles without really giving context. Because in one case, there's a criminal complaint. In Anamika's case, there's a criminal complaint being squashed by the court. In the other case, they're just asking for a prayer for protection, right? Prayer for protection is there in both cases, but in Anamika's case, there's a criminal case that's filed and that's being quashed. So these are two very different cases, and I just kind of wanted to shed light on it. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye-bye. See you later.